So welcome to the Wednesday webinar. My name is Michael Wimberly, and I will be presenting Windchill for SolidWorks Data Management. And we will cover, of course, the interface between the two and how they interact with one another. So the overall agenda is as usual. So we'll go through and talk about boundary systems, give an overview of boundary systems as a whole, an overview of the topic, and then of course a demonstration of the actual material. And then after that, there will be a Q&A. Inside of your go to webinar session in your menus, there is a section in there for questions. If you do have any questions, you can ask those. I will address any questions at the end of the webinar. So even if it comes to you right now or while we're going through it, you can still type it in and I will address it at the end of the webinar. All right, so once again, my name is Michael Wimberly. I am a technical specialist at Boundary Systems. I have over 25 years of experience with PTC products, over 20 years of experience training PTC products. I am certified to train Creo and Windchill classes, as well as a certified Windchill implementation specialist. Boundary Systems as a whole, as a company, we consider ourselves a technology leader. By doing that, we have partnered with PTC, of course, Solid Thinking, eTriage, Autodesk, and other technology companies that allow us to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in the industry. We've been the 16th fastest growing company in the greater Cleveland area. We're also a part of PDSVISION group, which is a part of the global grouping. We already had some global presence, but by us partnering with PDSVISION, it gave us an even greater global presence, as well as additional resources that can be used across the world as well. So it really helped us to be even a better company. Our capabilities overall, or just a few of them, I should say, is product lifecycle management, of course, data management, CAD design and consulting, simulation, even product development. On the right side of the screen, you see a few of the companies that we work with. These are just a few. This is an all-encompassing of all the companies that we do work with. There are more companies, and if we don't currently work with you, we'd be more than happy to put you on there as well. Now, for us, once again, our overall mission as a company is first, of course, to have the most technical expertise of PTC products. So by doing that, we have multiple people who are SMEs, subject matter experts in different areas of PTC products. We don't claim individually to know everything, but we have enough people in our company that touch enough areas of, or I should say, have expertise in other areas of PTC products that we have resources to pretty much cover anything that you want. By having that expertise, it allows us to understand and meet the needs of our customers. So by going in and talking to our customers, we can go in and evaluate what your current situation is, what you're looking to do, kind of be able to put it in PTC terminology if necessary. And then the next bullet item is we go in and give you a solution based on that information, and we guarantee the success of that solution. Because once again, we've taken the time to talk to you and have evaluated what it is that you want to do. And we've now given you a solution that we feel best fits what you want to do. Overall, the goal of any upgrades or additional pieces of software is to decrease cost, decrease time to market, and of course, increase the quality of your products. So with all of these different things, we feel confident that no matter what your needs are, we can go through and satisfy those needs, from our expertise to giving you product solutions that we think are going to work for you, help you implement those so that you are successful on those. And once again, at the very end, make sure that everything, the ROI that we're looking at for everything meets appropriately. All right, here are just a few of the companies that we actually have software agreements with. Of course, PTC, Tacton, Modex 3D, Xformation, eTriage, ITI, ZWCAS. So there's quite a few in there. If you have any questions on any of those, We have mode analysis. We have, with Windchill, we have eTriage, which actually integrates with Windchill and allows you, so if you need other formats other than your native SolidWorks or Creo format, we can use eTriage to go through and export those formats out, even if it's an IGES file or a PDF of a drawing. Whatever it is, you can go through and do that. If you have AutoCAD and you're looking for a cheaper solution because you have a lot of archive data that you're not putting into your 3D solution yet, you can use ZWCAD. Has the same functionality as AutoCAD, just at a much cheaper price. And then of course, any of the other options that are inside of there. As I said, if you have any questions on any of those, definitely reach out to myself. My information is mwimberly@boundarysys.com. If you have any sales-related questions, you can send an email to sales@boundarysys.com. Or of course, you can always visit our website at boundarysys.com. Or of course, always our YouTube channel, which we have all of our videos from years and years ago, and including this video, once it's complete, will be uploaded on there as well to our YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, search for Boundary Systems, subscribe to our channel, and of course, look at all the videos that we have. All right, so now we're going to go in and talk about the products. So the first thing, of course, we're going to go through and review Windchill for SolidWorks Data Manager. So what we're going to simply do is take everything that's being done inside of SolidWorks, the functionality that we have inside of Windchill, and we're going to go in and combine those two. So we're going to go in and now take Windchill, integrate it into SolidWorks, and then actually be able to use the data management functionality inside of inside of Windchill to manage the SolidWorks data. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and jump into a demonstration. All right, so here's my current system. Now, the version of SolidWorks that I have is an older version of SolidWorks. This is a newer version of Windchill, and they work just fine. So as you can see, we are using an older version. So the way we have it set up, it's already connected between the two. I'll just show you the connection. But you connect SolidWorks to Windchill in pretty much the same manner that you would inside of Creo. So once again, I already have it connected. I'm just going to go ahead and start SolidWorks up. When I go in and start SolidWorks, you'll see all the things that are going in and starting up, which you will see in just a moment, is the actual connection to Windchill, which is here. So the Workgroup Manager. So Windchill uses a Workgroup Manager to integrate into SolidWorks. Because we have the connection there, it's going to go in and, of course, validate my credentials to actually access Windchill. I've already entered them, and I simply save my credential information. So I'll just go ahead and say OK. It goes in and continues the startup of SolidWorks. And you can see down here at the bottom of the screen, it's also started up the Workgroup Manager. I will open that up in just a moment. And there we have SolidWorks. So you will work in SolidWorks like you normally do. And I'll show you the differences in just a moment as far as where things are saved and how you go through and open them up. So the first thing I want to show you is the Workgroup Manager. Because SolidWorks does not have an embedded browser like Creo does, then the Workgroup Manager is the connection that's going to be used between SolidWorks and Windchill. So this is our Windchill session. We are connected to Windchill. When I go through and select on my workspace, it will go through, and currently what we will see in my workspace is that currently is no data in my workspace. It's an empty workspace, but I will go in and add data to that. So yes, I will go through and add data to that. I have access to the Windchill cabinets, or I can use a breadcrumb trail up here to go through and access it as well. The Windchill cabinet will just simply go through and take me to Windchill as a whole. Right now, this is the product that I'm working out of. If you have multiple products, they will be listed here. We have our search functionality, our browsing functionality that we can go through and use for any of the data that we have inside of inside of Windchill. So as I said, right now, my tools or my files are currently inside of this golf cart product. Now, inside of there, we can go down and break it down as much as we want to. I do have subfolders in there for structures, WT part structures that I've used, manufacturing data. Here's some Creo data. The SolidWorks data that I have, I actually kind of have separated a little bit. So underneath my design folder, I actually have a folder specifically for my SolidWorks data. So just for this, I've gone in and isolated it away. But inside of here, you can see it works just the same. You can see the SolidWorks icons for your parts and your assemblies and your drawings. Everything's there. I also have promotion requests that I've created with inside of Windchill. So I can still go through and use the life cycles, just like I normally could, to go through and make sure that each thing goes through its appropriate span. So from the initial release, which this one is in work, all the way till it's finalized at the release state. And just like using the actual Creo files as well, I can also have our WT part files directly associated with them as well. So for every SolidWorks file, I can have the equivalent WT part file, which will still allow me to go through and look at the structures that I have inside of my Windchill. Now inside of here, I have this assembly here, which is just simply an engine assembly. I'm going to go ahead and select on it just so I can see. Goes in and shows me the detail. Now right now, this one does not have a viewable because I don't have a publisher currently set up or active for this. If I go back to my folder again, you will see as I go down a little bit further, I do have files that do have the viewables. So they are actually there. Like I said, the ones that I'm looking at now, I did not go in and publish those thumbnails for those, but once I do go through and publish those will be available as well. Give me a second, just trying to show that viewable. There we go. All right, so once again, I'm going to go into this Engine 100 assembly. And what we're looking at here is, once again, just the general information about it. There are some attributes. So for model check information, we also have weight and volume that are attributes that can be pulled from your SolidWorks model and filled in. And we'll go through and look at that as well. Down here at the bottom, it shows you the context as to the actual product that it's in and the actual folder location of the data. And then down here is our life cycle. So we're basically using a basic life cycle. And that basic life cycle only has 3 states, which is in work, released, and canceled. If we did want additional states, we can go through and create a custom life cycle for our SolidWorks data that goes through multiple stages. So maybe instead of just being in work, we also have a prototype stage. We may have a change release stage, a change prototype stage, any of those different things. So all those items, I should say states, can be created and customized for our actual life cycle. Now, because this is an assembly, I can go into the structure tab, and it recognizes all the structure information inside of SolidWorks as well. So it shows the assembly and all of the subparts underneath it as well. If it had any additional content, it will go through and show that as well. So there's the actual file. If we had attachments, it will go through and show those. Under related objects, we can go in and see if this was used anywhere else and if it had related WT parts. So unfortunately, for what I'm looking at, this is not used in any of the subassemblies, nor does it have a related WT part. I can show you that in just a moment, but we're gonna just kind of go on a little bit further. And the other thing that's beneficial, anytime you use a data management, or this being a product lifecycle management tool, you have the history. Right now, we've only checked this in one time, but every time you check the file into the database, it goes in and records the history of that particular file. So we will have A.1, A.2. Anytime we revise it, It'll go to B.1, B.2. So you'll see all that as well. So I'm going to go back to the structure tab real quick. And even for this one, let's go in and look at this header assembly. You can see this actually has 3 versions. I can go in and select that and go to its information page, just so we can see the history of this, and go to its history tab. And in the history tab, we can see the 3 versions of that when they were checked in. So we can see that information directly inside of the actual Windchill. So that is, once again, the benefit of having the using the product lifecycle management software to be able to record the history of the different files and be able to use it. If I want to go back and look at that older version, I can then download the older version of that to see what it looked like when it was in version 1 versus what it looks like now in version 3. So I can go through and look at that information as well. The other thing that's beneficial is over here just the information. So we have the uses. It goes in and shows same thing, just same general information that we have over here. We can customize, add some additional tabs or columns to each one to go in and show some additional information. Same thing over here to kind of customize the display a little bit more if we want to go in and see maybe some of the attributes that are filled in or parameters that are filled in. So another thing that's available is a visualization. So for this assembly, it will go through and show me the visualization of this assembly. And the thing that's beneficial is I can go in and rotate this. And be able to go through and select on, it's not highlighting, of course. There we go. It's highlighting and going away. Unfortunately, it's not highlighting, but normally what it would show, it will go through and highlight the components in green, kind of like we see there. So it will highlight it in green based on what I'm selecting over here on the side. There it is, it's highlighting them there. Just took it a minute to recognize it. But that way I can see what the individual components are inside of this particular assembly. Go back to attributes, that way the visualization doesn't slow me down. Now at this point, I'm going to go into SolidWorks. So in SolidWorks, I can go in and do my open. Now, right now, it is currently looking inside of my workspace. As I mentioned before, I don't have anything in my workspace. So over here on the left side, I can browse for something that may be on my hard drive. If I'm bringing data into Windchill and I have the data on the hard drive first and I want to migrate it into Windchill, I can go in and browse for that data on my hard drive. Or if I want to bring something down from Windchill, I'm just going to go directly into Windchill, and the same information that I saw before, I see now. So I'm going all the way into Windchill, the same structure. Now I'm inside of my SolidWorks data folder, and underneath there, I'm going to go ahead and open up that same Engine 100 assembly. So I'm going to select on it, open it up. Now, what we will see is the first thing it's doing is adding it to the workspace. So down here at the right corner, you can see that it's currently adding that data to my workspace. Now it's going in and opening that file up inside of SolidWorks. Just a few more seconds. All right, now what we can see is when I go into my workspace now that assembly and all of its components will now be added to my workspace. So I don't have to go in and add them to my workspace first. If I open up a file from the database, it will go through and automatically add that data to my workspace. All right, so now let's go in and I'm going to go ahead and select on a component, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up into a separate window. Now, what I want to do is I want to go in and make a modification. So I'm going to come over here, change this from 0.24 to 0.2. Go ahead and have it rebuild it. And that should now be updated to 0.2. Great, I've made the change or changes, whatever it is that I wanted to make to it. Now I come over here and I save. As soon as I select save, it alerts me that the file that I'm working on, I currently don't have checked out to myself. So basically, I don't have control of this file. So what I can do is I can go ahead and check it out because the changes that I made, I plan on storing back into the database. So I can check it out. Or if I plan on, now this is I think 8.1 for this particular file, and I don't want to go in and get rid of that. I don't want to create an 8.2. I actually want to revise it. So it now becomes a different version or revision of this particular file. So I can go ahead and revise it, and it now takes it from A.1 now to B.1. So now I'll have two different revisions of this file, one being the A revision, one being the B revision that I can use. Or if I'm going in and simply just playing around with this and the changes that I'm making, I don't plan on putting back into the database, I can go in and simply say continue, which still will allow me to make changes to it. I can save it to my workspace, but I can't check those changes in until I check it out. And hopefully nobody else has checked it out in the meantime. So for what I'm going to do, I am going to go ahead and check this file out and select OK. So now it went in and checked out the file, tells me it checked out successfully, and it saved the file. So now when I go back to my workspace, there I can see this file is checked out. It's currently modified locally. What that means is the changes that I've made are only on my local computer. With Windchill, your workspace actually resides in two locations. One of those locations being a local storage on your hard drive, the other one being a server-side storage of your workspace on the Windchill server. So until I do an upload of that file and those changes will only reside down on my local workspace. Once I upload it, those changes are now secured into the Windchill server. What that means is that if for some reason my system was to crash and I could not get SolidWorks or my Workgroup Manager started, or even worse, my computer just dumped on me. It just died and they had to give me a new computer. Because I've uploaded those files are now secured on the server, which means once I get a new computer, I get SolidWorks reinstalled, I get the Workgroup Manager reattached, I can now download those same changes back to my local drive and continue to work on it. So by securing them on the server side, no matter where I am, when I log in as myself, I have access to that data. So that way, I don't lose my information. So with that being said, I do recommend, at least at the end of the days, that you go and at least do an upload. That way your data is stored and nothing can happen overnight, unless your systems are backed up every night. So if your local computer is backed up every night, then yeah, you don't necessarily need to do an upload because the Windchill server's backed up and your local hard drive or your local computer is also backed up. But if not, I do recommend at least doing an upload, especially when you're making some major changes to the system. All right, so at this point, I can go in and take this file and I can check it in. So I can take it and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and check this file in. I'm just going to go through and now check this file into Windchill. Down here, I can make comments. So I can go through and simply say, updated end dimension from 0.24 2.20. And this, once again, just giving me information as to what I changed between the different versions of the file and anybody else that may go in and look at this file. So I can go ahead and select next. Now I can go in and create a baseline. We can get into that another time. Have it automatically create WT parts if they don't exist. Create a new promotion request. So this change now needs to be released. So once I check it in, I can have it automatically kick in to a promotion request, which will allow me to go through and now promote it to released instead of it being in work. I can also check, undo the checkout or anything that I didn't change in my workspace, as well as remove the files from my workspace. And if I had incomplete objects, which means it couldn't find everything, I pulled it from my hard drive and it didn't find every file that it felt it needed for it to properly regenerate. It created an incomplete object. I can go in and try to have it ignore that and still check the file. We would have to get into that into another session when we're actually doing importing the data. But right now I don't need to do anything else, so I'll just go ahead and finish. And this file is now being checked in, and it checked in successfully. Now this file is at version A.2. I'm going to go ahead and look at the information on this one. Now, currently, I am looking at this inside of my workspace. Because I'm looking at this inside of my workspace, if you notice, I do not have the history tab. Because the only thing it shows me in my workspace is the current version of this file. If I wanted to look at the version of this file inside of the database and see the history, I can go from the workspace, which is basically a desk, to the common space, which is basically a file cabinet. When I select on that, it now takes me to the information on the object inside of Windchill. And now when I go to the history tab, there I can see the two versions. The other thing that is beneficial is, remember that comment that I added? That comment is listed right here. So now anybody that goes in and opens up this file or looks at the history of this file will go in and know what the difference is between A.1 and A.2. So notes are adding comments only takes a few seconds, but it's a very powerful piece of it to just allow you and anyone else to understand what changes have been made inside of different files. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead back to my workspace real quick. And before I jump back into SolidWorks, I'm gonna go in and create a brand new file so we can see how that works as well. I'm gonna come in here and set a couple preferences, or at least one preference. So underneath my pick actions, there is an edit preferences. And what I want to do is I want to go in and specify when I create new CAD files, where they go inside of Windchill. So right now, any new CAD file that I created will go to the top level of the product golf cart. But because I'm working currently with my SolidWorks files, I want them to go down into my SolidWorks folder. So I'm going to select the browse here. And I'm just going to go through and simply select on design and then SolidWorks data. So what that does is now any new CAD file that I create will automatically have its folder location set to golf cart /design /SolidWorks data. I can do the same thing if I was creating WT parts, so they were in the same location, to go through and set that to that same folder. There. And there we go. All right, so that's currently set for my workspace. Go ahead and minimize it. And I'll go ahead and close out this file. And this assembly. And this assembly. Don't say. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new file. This is going to be a part. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. Now, mind you, I am as you saw in my information, I've been using PTC products for a long time. So learning some of the SolidWorks things was a little bit interesting for me, but I'm gonna go ahead and create this feature, extruded boss, and I'm gonna go ahead and start it on there. And once again, very simple. And I'm gonna go ahead and use my smart dimensioning. So it does have a dimension on it, which was one of the things I had to get used to. I'm gonna go ahead and make this an even 25. And then I'm done with the sketch. And the overall height of 10 works for me. So I'll go ahead and complete it. All right, so there's a new file. I'm just gonna go ahead and save this file. And I'm gonna go in and call this cylinder. Cylinder dash. Now I'm going to do gen because I'm actually going to go through and create configurations with this. So this is going to be my generic cylinder. All right, so now there's my generic cylinder. Now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, I'm going to go in and create configurations. For those that have used Creo, their configurations are basically equivalent to family tables. So I'm going to go ahead and select on this. I'm going to select the, or I should say hover over the overall height dimension. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to say configure this dimension. Now, with this, I can now go through and create my additional configurations. So I'm going to call this one, the first one, I'm going to call cylinder 1. I'm sorry, cylinder 2. I'm going to have another one, cylinder 3. This one is going to be cylinder 4. All right, and then for the values, I'm going to leave the default one at 10. I'm going to do the next one at 15, the next one at 20, the next one at 30. All right, now, just like what I would normally do inside of Creo, I want to go through and validate that each one of those can be regenerated properly. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say rebuild all configurations. So it goes through and regenerates each one of them to validate that they each can be created. Great. Say okay. Now, if I want to go through and add any additional dimensions, I could do that. I am just going to do the height for this one. So I'm good. So now I'm going to come over here to my configuration and I can see each of the configurations and I can see that they're all saved. Now, I did rename. Kind of messed up the name on that one. There we go. So I did, as you see, I went in and left the 1 available because I'm going to change the default to cylinder 1. So instead of being labeled as default, it's going to be labeled cylinder 1. All right, now those are my 4 configurations from the cylinder generic. So when I go through and select on either one of those, you can see that the height of that is updated. Great. Now I want to go in, I want to save this. So I'm going to go through and save it. All right, now when I go to my workspace, when I look at my workspace, I see just the cylinder generic. I do not see the different versions of that. The way that works inside of SolidWorks is that once again, it's all nested inside of the one, so it's not as seen as individual objects. So in order for that to happen, I will need to go into the instances or the configurations into their properties. Nope, not the properties, sorry. Into the file properties. And there is a configuration specific option, which is called PTC is instance. What that basically means is that this variation or this configuration is going to be equivalent to an instance inside of Windchill. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes for that one. Now that's for cylinder 1. I can also go in and select on any of the other ones. I'm going to go in and do cylinder 3. I'm going to also go through and change that. So if I look at cylinder 1 is set to yes. Cylinder 2 is still set to no. 3 is set to yes, and 4 is set to no. What you're basically doing with this one is you can go through and specify which configurations you want to be shown in Windchill as individual objects. Now they're still tied to the generic, but when you go through and you look at them inside of Windchill, they will actually be shown as individual objects. Rebuild. All right, just want to confirm that everything stayed. Yep. So I just went in and made sure of everything, resaved it. There we go. And there we can see there's the icon for family tables. That's the generic, and we can see the 2 instances that were created. So there's instance 1, or basically configuration 1, and configuration 3 that we said we wanted to actually show as individual items inside of Windchill. So we can do it this way. We can do that for each one of those. If we went in and created, or we had existing files that we wanted to go through and manipulate here, the other thing that we can do, is we can come over underneath insert table. I can go into a design table. And with the design table, it goes in auto create. With the design table, it's going in and calculating the information. So if I did have quite a few instances or configurations that were created, it's just taking a second to go and create the table. Sorry for the background noise. Somebody is now cutting grass. Hopefully you don't hear that. But what you now have inside of this table is the values as well as the instances. So if I wanted to go through and change them, I could go in and do that directly inside of this table. So that way it saves me from having to go through and open up each one of them or hit properties on each one of them. I can go into my design table and change the value here from from no to yes. Now, I can do it that way for existing items. If I wanted to go through and set it up so that whenever I created something new, then it always recognized them as instances. I can do that as well. I will go ahead and close out this file. Yeah, sure, go ahead and save everything. Should still only show those 2 files. Now, what I can do is I'm actually going to do it specifically inside of this product that I'm working on. I can go up levels. So if I wanted to affect all my products and libraries, I could do it at that level. I'm doing it specifically at the product level that I'm working on. So underneath utilities, underneath preference management, there's an option down here at the bottom for workgroup management client. Underneath workgroup management client, there is a family table instance creation. I can go in and expand that. And down here is, where it goes, manage new model instances by default, which is once again that PTC is an instance or is IS instance. I'm going to go in and change that from no to yes. Select OK. That's now updated. Now, in order for this to kick in into my SolidWorks session, I will need to close SolidWorks and open it back up. So I'm going to go ahead and close the Workgroup Manager. And I'm going to go ahead and close out of SolidWorks. And then open SolidWorks back up. And I meant to show you in the other one, the default value. So where I went in and changed the value of that from no to yes, the very right column showed what the default value is. And the default value for those prior to this was set to no. Now what we'll see is the default value for everything will be set to yes. All right, so I'm in, everything is up. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file, new part. Inside of here, same thing, I'm going to go in and just create myself some simple data. My smart dimensioning. Great. I'm done with the sketch. And that looks good. All right, same general thing. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take this dimension this time. I'm gonna go ahead and configure it. And once again, rectangle 2, rectangle 3, rectangle 4, and then make that 40, 30, 70. And validate it. So everything, make sure everything gets regenerated, can be regenerated, there are no failures. Great, great, great. We're done. Go to my configurations. There's everything. Now, without doing anything, I'm gonna go ahead and rename this one real quick to rectangle 1. Without doing anything and not even showing you anything, I'm gonna go ahead and save this. And I'm gonna call this rectangle generic. Go to my workspace. And there are all my rectangle parts. So once again, without me doing anything, because I set that preference to have SolidWorks configurations equal to Windchill instances or Creo instances, then it goes and automatically recognizes each one of those as an instance. So now they'll all be seen individually inside of Windchill, and we can go through and pull each one of them up as necessary. All right, so additionally, real quickly, let me take about hopefully 5 more minutes, and then we can open it up to Q&A. But inside of here, we have, I'm gonna go into this part, just the information area on it. Now, I mentioned before that we have information here. So these are parameters or attributes that are available that are available inside of Windchill. They can also be available inside of our SolidWorks files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add an additional one. So we can add multiple. I'm just going to do it for time's sake. I'm just going to go ahead and add one. So I'm going to come over here into my organization. Now, once again, this will take administrative privileges to be able to do this. But into here, I'm going to go into my type and attribute management area. Let's open this up more. And inside of Windchill, the actual CAD files are labeled as EPM documents. I'm going to go directly into the CAD document, and I'm going to go ahead and edit this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another attribute. So these are the current attributes. So we saw the model check ones. Those are inside of here. And we also saw there was one for weight and volume. Those are also here. So those are assigned to the CAD file. So any type of CAD file that is brought into Windchill will get these attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new one. And this one I'm going to call vendor. And I have an existing reusable attribute that I've gone in and defined that is basically vendor name. And then the way I want this filled out, it's going to be a display name of vendor. So it's just going to show vendor. And the way I want this filled out is down here at the bottom. So these are all the different applications that we can go through and set specific information for. I'm just going to come down here and specify that the input field, so where you type in the vendor name, do I want multiple lines or single lines? If I had a list of vendors, I can go through and attach that list and then specify how we will go through and select those. We want to go through and have, sorry, that's this one, drop down listing or radio button next to it. So once again, because this is a single line, I'm just going to go through and use that. Finish. There's a value. There's vendor. Like I said, this is an administrative thing. I'm just showing you that I'm adding it. Select done. All right, and then I can close that out. All right, now I'm going to go back into my workspace. There's a workspace, there's a file. Now, currently, if I go to the information on this, shows me that information. You can see that there is the vendor information immediately available. So now when I go into SolidWorks, I can take this, go back into the file properties area, and instead of doing a configuration specific item, I can go into custom. I'm going to go through and create a custom one. This is going to be vendor. It will be text. And this text is going to be Boundary Inc. And there we have that information. Great. I'll save it. Once I save it, and I go back into my workspace, refresh the data. There you can see Boundary Inc. So now I have those attributes that are available that I have inside of SolidWorks that I can go in and create equivalent attributes inside of Windchill and be able to go through and show that data between the two. So it's available inside of SolidWorks and it's displayable inside of Windchill. So that way we have more information that we're populating inside of the system. Other than that, once again, we're using it as a data management PLM system. So not just data management, but product lifecycle management. where we're going in and actually not just maintaining the data, but we're also going in and maintaining it through its life and all of the associated files with it. You can also see down here at the bottom, it doesn't currently have a location nor a lifecycle template. That is simply because in my workspace, it's just local. I have not connected it to the full database yet because it hasn't been uploaded. So I'm going to go in and take these files, and I'm going to go ahead and do an upload. And once I do an upload, it now syncs the information with Windchill. You can see that the up arrow is now not available. I go back into my generic, and now we still see that information. We see the information here that's also set up. So until I check it in, it won't actually have a location in the database, but we see that currently, because the workspace is associated with the golf cart, then the upload of that is also associated with the golf cart because that's where the workspace is located. All right, so at this point, if there are any questions, please feel free to go through and ask them. Once again, inside of the question area, you can go through and ask questions. I think there was one that was already there. Suppose it works with whatever SolidWorks version as well. So it is version compatible. So just like everything else, as new versions of SolidWorks comes in, then they have to be associated with the later version or the newer version of Windchill. Backwards compatibility is pretty simple. It's the newer versions. So I think SolidWorks is up to 2020 for its versioning. I know this version that I'm working in, which is 11, is not compatible with that. So we would need a newer version of Windchill to work with the newer version of SolidWorks. So it works version based. So as new versions of SolidWorks comes out, Windchill has to be updated to now see that newer version of the software. What about abandoning SolidWorks? What would be the benefits and savings? For SolidWorks itself, as far as not using SolidWorks and going directly to Creo, is that what your question is? Just to kind of clarify. It's Creo. It's greatly beneficial. As far as going away from SolidWorks, you just have to bring your data in. Once you bring in your data into into Windchill, if you are going into Creo, then Creo actually can open up native SolidWorks files. So you can bring those in, you can actually work on them. Now, it doesn't bring in the SolidWorks tree. But if you were maintaining SolidWorks, if you did make a change in SolidWorks, the change would actually be updated inside of Creo as well. But if you're looking to move away completely from SolidWorks, yeah, you can still bring in the native SolidWorks files, and we can use our Flex modeling to continue to update those files. So that way we can still work on them, we can still add features, we can even manipulate existing features inside of the SolidWorks files to have it recognize holes and rounds and extrusions, all those different things. Now, we couldn't just go in and do the redefining of that, but we can go through and edit that information. So yeah, going away from SolidWorks, it's not an issue. Of course, you have Windchill that works directly, it'll be directly integrated into Creo, but you have those benefits as well for that. But moving away from SolidWorks, Creo works with it without a problem between the two pieces of software. Does that answer your question okay? What type of savings? You're just saying software savings? Or time savings, or what type of savings are you referring to? I know dollar-wise, I know PTC always has sales, subscriptions. That would definitely be more of a sales-directed question, only because I try not to deal with numbers. I deal more with functionality, but I know I can get you in touch or get one of our salespeople directly in touch with you to talk about to talk about the pricing. Yeah, I know. Because pricing changes, that's why I try not to do that. I try to deal with functionality changes versus pricing changes. I let the salespeople deal with that. Sorry, I know. I did at one point try to get into the pricing, but once I got things into my mind, it all changed. So I just stopped. So yeah, I would definitely need to have a salesperson get in touch with you on that. Infrastructure simplicity. Yeah, with that, it's definitely directly integrated. So we don't have to deal with the Workgroup Manager, which is a separate application installation. So the Workgroup Manager is a separate install that you have to do in order to sync those two up, because you're dealing with Creo. Is directly integrated into the software. So you don't have to have a separate installation. You don't have to worry about an upgrade for anything. Yeah, with the Workgroup Manager, each one will have to have a separate install of the Workgroup Manager. But if you're looking for direct integration, then yeah, we're just looking at Creo. All you're doing is registering inside of the Creo, and it works inside the embedded browser. There's no installation that needs to be done other than Creo. So there is no Workgroup Manager because it works directly with the software. SolidWorks, ThingWorks. I haven't seen any problems because ThingWorks is pulling data. So as long as it can see the data in the SolidWorks files, there hasn't been an issue. So yeah, ThingWorks with SolidWorks, like I said, it is pulling information. So I have not seen an issue with pulling data directly from SolidWorks files into ThingWorks. Once again, we have a ThingWorks expert that can definitely give you more information if you need to on that as well. All right. So any additional? Currently, yes. Yes, you were the only one to ask the question, which is fine. You know, the questions are good. So, all right. If there aren't any additional questions, then I do want to say thank you all for your time. If you do want to get in touch with me, once again, use my email address, mwimberly@boundaryassist.com. For sales-related questions, once again, sales@boundaryassist.com. Definitely visit our website. Definitely visit our YouTube. This video will probably be up by the end of the week for anyone that is interested in it. So you can definitely go in and view it in our YouTube page. Other than that, have a wonderful afternoon. And once again, thank you for your time.